Good morning. Welcome to United. My name is Maria HINNERS, and I am the worship facilitator for today's service. Our music director is CHILSEN. Childcare is available today, and we are glad to have Reverend Monica Kling-Garcia here as our guest speaker. It's great to see all of you, and I want to extend a special welcome to visitors and guests. I hope that you can join us all after the service for coffee and conversation. Aaron is streaming live, and we will have parts of the service that will not be streamed. So we have a couple announcements. First of all, there is a play coming up, 5 Lesbians Eating a Quiche, on Saturday, October 14th. So respect the egg and save your time. And Ellen has an announcement. You can if you want.
Hi, I'm Ellen. So this lady reached out to David and the church, and he asked me to make an announcement on this family's behalf. So Danielle and her 3 sons left a domestic violence situation, and they are now living here in town. And so the ask is for clothing for the 3 kids. So I actually made half sheets with the sizes and everything. We thought we would do a quick turnaround on this. Maybe the next couple of weeks, just with school starting and everything, obviously. So there is a 6-year-old, Giovanni is 13. I think it's Alex. Yeah, Alex is 11, and Josiah is 6, or he wears size 6, sorry. So again, the ask is for clothing. I got a few things for the 6-year-old yesterday. And she goes on to say that her income, whatever the source is $980, and her rent is $925. Unfortunately, that's not terribly unusual in this day and age. She gets food share, but that's out already by this time of the month, so etc. So again, I have a bag there. If we could, maybe leave things in the hallway for the 3 boys. Obviously, if you're inclined to do gift cards for any local stores, I think gently used clothing would be fine too. So thank you on her behalf.
Thank you, Ellen. Do we have a youth member who wants to light the chalice? No one big enough. Maybe they want to, but maybe not yet. Each Sunday we light our flaming chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Please join me in saying the words that we share. May this flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, please rise in body and spirit and join us in singing hymn number 354 in the gray hymnal, We Laugh, We Cry.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to
Hi, I'm Reverend Monica Kling-Garcia, and I use they, them pronouns. Today, I would like to share, to open our space, a call to worship by the Reverend Sherry Woodbury called In Our Circle Again. Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow, beckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time. Here we are, gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our own shadows, faced and befriended. With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all our inner trembling, let us model the health we seek for all and lean into community. Somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. And somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds.
Sorry, that was my mistake. We're juggling the order of service a little bit, so keep you on your toes. In addition, each week we build our sense of community by sharing milestones in our individual lives, these joys and sorrows that make us who we are. If you have something to share, please come forward to the microphone and tell us your name and tell us what's on your mind. Take a stone from the bowl as you do so, and if you wish, when you're finished, place the stone in the bowl with the water, and let the ripples carry your concerns out to the wider community. This time will not be streamed live.
Walking with you is our prayer.
Wonderful, thank you. Our story for all ages today comes from the sacred place of the library, where I got this copy today. It is How the Crayons Saved the Rainbow, written by Monica Sweeney, a good name if I say so myself, and illustrated by Feronia Parker Thomas. Since it is well loved, it may take a little finagling for me to move through the pages. The sun and the clouds were best friends. They worked together to keep the earth warm and the gardens growing. But of all the things they did together, their very favorite was making rainbows so that the whole world was colorful and happy. Then one day, the sun and the clouds had a big fight. The clouds were blocking the sun, and the sun couldn't shine through to the earth. The sun went sizzle, sizzle, sizzle at the clouds, and the clouds went clap, bang, boom, back. They stopped being friends and were never in the sky together at the same time again. With the sun and the clouds far apart, it was scorching hot on some days, which we all are very well acquainted with, and was damp and cold on others. And worst of all, there were no more rainbows. Without rainbows, the flowers, streams, and even cities started to lose their color. Soon, the earth was just black and white. But in one little town, in one little school, in one little desk, there was one little forgotten box of crayons, and the crayons still had their colors. The desk rattled, shook, clamored, and clanked. All of a sudden, it toppled over, and the box of crayons tumbled out. "Ah, I'm naked," says the one in the box. "Yippee," says the green crayon as it colors. "Get off me," the orange crayon says with the yellow crayon on top of it. "I'm out of here," says the red crayon. "Woe is me," says the blue crayon. And the purple crayon says, "Wait, where are all the colors?" The crayons started to search for the colors. They raided marker bins and tore through art projects. But everywhere as far as they could see was only black and white. "What about daffodils and butter?" said the yellow crayon. "Who made all the colors go away?" said the green crayon. "This is so sad," said the blue crayon. "This is terrible," said the red crayon. The orange crayon said, "If oranges aren't orange, do I even exist?" The crayons looked out the window. The sun was all the way to one side of the sky looking angry, and the clouds were all the way at the other side looking very gloomy. One crayon said, "I miss all the colors. We can't even draw rainbows together now." The purple crayon said, "Wait, that's it. We need to save the rainbows." So the crayons started drawing little rainbows all over town. But nothing happened. The sun and the clouds didn't seem to notice. "We have to make our rainbows bigger," Violet said. Working together, the crayons drew and scribbled. They made the biggest, brightest, most colorful rainbow the world had ever seen. Ever so slowly, the sun perked up, and the clouds floated in for a closer look. The sun and the clouds both peered down, admiring the giant rainbow that the crayons had drawn. "What bright colors," said the sun. "It's incredible," said the clouds. They looked at each other with great big smiles. The sun said to the clouds, "Remember when we used to be together all the time and make rainbows?" The clouds nodded. "I'm sorry for going clap, bang, boom at you." "I'm sorry for going sizzle, sizzle, sizzle at you," said the sun. "It's better being friends," said the sun, and the clouds agreed. They hugged, the sun shined brightly, and the clouds misted happy rain. Ever so slowly, rainbows reappeared near and far, turning the world colorful once again. The end. Invite anyone who is going for childcare or anything like that at this point. Not sure who would, but the invitation is there for anyone. No, sing them out just in case.
Go lifted up, love bless your way. Moonlight, starlight, guide your journey into peace and the brightness of day.
I always want to take a nap after that. Sounds like a little lullaby. Each week in our church, we take up an offering. Our energy and resources are the gifts of what we share. By contributing to the growth of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the world around us. We hope to remain a voice and an instrument of our free faith, united in the spirit of love, courage, and service.
Our reading today is written by Elizabeth Nguyen called Show Up Hungry. I got off work at 7 p.m. and did the thing where you chase the bus a bit, but then realize you won't make it and sheepishly walk back to the bus stop. I'm already an hour late to Sunday night singing at the Lucy Stone Cooperative, a UU affordable housing co-op in Boston. I'm still ambivalent. I could go home to Netflix and grilled cheese. I could choose predictability and warm carbs. Or I could get on the bus to this community where I was first a member of the planning team and now a board member. This place where, despite my leadership role, I still find myself questioning whether and how I belong. I give myself a little pep talk, reminding myself that I'm allowed to show up late and hungry and in need of a song, reminding myself that being in community means offering care and being cared for, bringing my shiny self and my not-so-shiny self. When I arrive, there's a teapot of hot water and a plate of fat dates on the table. A friend presses a bowl into my hands, and there's broccoli soup. We sing Amazing Grace. The wonders of accepting love have made me whole and real. Community is covenant. It's the promise of a bowl of soup and a song at the end of the day. It's love in the form of a house on Moreland Street that has said it doesn't matter that I don't live there and that I too am welcome on Sunday nights. Laid bare, it is the sweetness and accountability of doing that thing together that we cannot do alone. I've not always been my best self in community. I've shirked dish duty at Lucy Stone, and I've missed weddings in my hometown. I've dropped out when I was needed and shown up full of pettiness and exhaustion. But the wonder of accepting love is only made evident when we're allowed to shed the shiny and let the sourness show. Our communities of spirit are only real because we show up late expecting to be fed, because we both give and get. Our vulnerabilities, our bits of brokenness, bring life to our relationships. We are part of community when we show up shiny and not shiny, when we ladle soup into each other's bowls and eat it eagerly, when we bring our sour and our sweet, when we shed that shiny and show up hungry. Board games, I swear, a sudden change in tone, but the game of life is the theme. Board games, they have always been an important part of my life. I have many fond memories of sitting together as a family for a weekend game night. We'd spend time discussing and picking out the perfect game, which my family can attest to was its own challenge with a family of 6. Some of my favorite games growing up were Sorry, charades. We had this one particularly that was a Mickey Mouse head that you could click to get the cards. And I also really loved Clue. For our family, games were more than just about winning, though winning was always preferable, for sure. We had our own house rules, inside jokes, and precious memories attached to each game. This carried into adulthood. For my husband and I, board games are an important symbol of community to our family. We have 2 bookshelves full of entirely board games, and we actually had a board game-themed wedding, complete with secondhand games for our guests to take home. We love the opportunities to gather with people together and socialize, but we also love the games themselves and how they require equal parts thoughtfulness and imagination. Whether we are guarding an imaginary castle from invaders or solving a curious mystery, the games are made more fun by the people that we play them with. As the saying goes, art imitates life, and in some ways, board games are no different. While board games are excellent entertainment, they also have their own lessons to teach us about what it means to be part of community and how to work together, as well as how not to. Traced back to as early as ancient Egypt, board games have been around throughout history as ways for people to entertain themselves. Different types of games that people played have varied from time and place and can involve minimal pieces or can be very extravagant. I'm sure everyone here has their own favorite game they've loved to play, be it even a simple chess or checkers or card game. So many of these beloved board games have one main objective: for you to win and for all of your friends and family to lose. Now, the specifics of how you do that vary from game to game. Some games, like the deduction game of Clue or the dice game of Yahtzee, for example, require you to simply figure out the answer first or get the best score. Your actions are not intentionally to sabotage others and largely don't affect them, but rather you are trying on your own to win like a race. Other games, like Monopoly or Sorry, are games where your actions directly affect others, and you are actually encouraged to sabotage other people's progress. Whether it is buying key properties or knocking someone's piece back to start, part of winning is actually to guarantee everyone else loses. These are great games and super fun to play. However, if we step back for a moment and take a look, we can see that these games really reward certain behaviors. Prioritizing your own interests, stopping others from succeeding, or just simply being better than everyone else. While these are fun and low-stakes games, these skills don't really apply to life in the same way. If we put other people down, try to make sure only our needs are met, or simply ignore the rest of the community in a race to the goal, it is hard to imagine the result of that being a healthy and thriving community. While one person might achieve their goal, others in the community are left out, and the group as a whole suffers. We don't need to look hard to see how this mentality, winning at the expense of others, plays out in our world. We see corporate greed and billionaires hoarding wealth, while many struggle for food and housing. For example, according to the Pew Research Center this year, the top 10% of American households hold a disproportionate 69% of the total wealth in America, whereas the lower 50% of Americans cumulatively only have 2.4% of that wealth. Success in our society is often equated with having the most and keeping it to ourselves so that only a few win and everyone else loses. As Unitarian Universalists, we seek to have our religion be a reflection of our values and a vision for what the world can be. We become part of a congregation, not just for ourselves, but to be a part of a community. We want to see each other succeed, grow our souls, and help the important work of the church in making a better and more just world. Through our covenants, as a covenantal community, we make promises to each other to live into our values and support each other, not just ourselves. But what does that really mean? The UUA's Congregational Life staff says this about covenants. Covenant is the silk that joins Unitarian Universalist congregations, communities, and individuals together in a web of interconnection. The practice of promising to walk together is the precious core of our creedless faith. Every congregation has different variations of covenants, whether it be for the entire church or for each individual group or committee. As a part of this community, these statements reflect how we promise to live out our values of peace, love, service, both within and outside of our church. Now, when we eventually fall short of our promises, because sometimes we will, Having a shared covenant gives us the language to remind one another of our shared commitment to walk together and bring each other back into community. Being in covenant together means that we journey together through the game of life, that we agree that living into our values means that we share our gifts, we help each other when we are in need, and work together towards our goals guided by our values. So to tie this all back into our metaphor, is there a board game out there that can model this kind of mentality? I think so. It's a style of board games that is increasing in popularity called cooperative board games. In this type of board game, all of the players are working together towards a common goal, where it is basically everyone versus the game itself. The board usually has some sort of timed element to it, making it important for all of the players to work together to win. In this style of game, there's no hierarchy of winners or losers. Either everyone wins or everyone loses together. To illustrate this, since it may be a new idea for many, I'd like to share an example of one of my favorite cooperative board games called Forbidden Island. Board games often have stories associated with them, ways you use your imagination to be put in the moment. For this one, you are Indiana Jones, or an Indiana Jones-like character, someone who is going to a new place trying to find treasure and artifacts. Forbidden Island is a game where you and all of the other players are adventurers like Indiana Jones on a deserted island. And the island is represented by many interlocking square pieces on a board. Each of the adventurers is trying to find magical artifacts placed in different sections of the island. After players begin, pieces of the island begin to disappear as they are removed on a timed basis throughout the game. Now, the object of the game is, as a team, to collect all of the artifacts and make sure everyone gets to escape before the whole island disappears. Now, to aid you on this quest, players can share their cards, which have different resources or abilities special to them, and they can strategize together openly during each turn. The only way to win and to get back to the Indiana Jones college with your artifacts, if we're sticking with the Indiana Jones metaphor, is to work together, to communicate with each other, and to share what you have. When we think about our church as a covenantal community, at our best, we are more like a cooperative board game than a competitive one. We share what we have with each other. We work towards a common goal with the same obstacles of life. It is not about who is more right or who wins, but it's about how we get there and play the game. And no one wins until we all win together. Now, it's important to note that working together, even in a cooperative board game, is not without its conflict. Sometimes, even when working towards a common goal, players of these games can experience arguments and tension over what is the right move to make for the entire success of the whole team of players. There is discussion, and some players may just have completely different ideas of what to do next. But the only way a team can successfully beat a board game like Forbidden Island is if they work together and reach compromise and repair relationships in effective ways. If someone treats the game like a competitive board game, keeping resources to themselves, prioritizing the moves they want to make, or preventing the moves of other players, everyone will lose the game. You need everyone to cross the finish line together. If life is a board game, then congregational life is doing the work of showing your hands of cards, who you are and what you have to offer. It is sharing the resources you have to help others in the community who are in need, and sharing when you are in need yourself. It is recognizing how we journey together is sometimes more important than the destination, and that we do it together in a spirit of love and service. In today's reading, Show Up Hungry, our author represents the best of congregational life when we work together. Even though she was coming late and exhausted, she knew that she would be taken care of and fed by her community. She knew that she could show up and as she was and as she was feeling, and they would support her. She knew the focus of Lucy Stone wasn't who was on time or who brought what, but rather who was there and what did they need. Another example of cooperative community outside of church was in Olympia, Washington, where the East Side neighborhood was concerned about rising crime rates in the area. After a group of volunteers conducted a survey, the majority of the neighborhood shared that if they knew their neighbors better, they would actually feel safer. What came out of that were a series of neighborhood events hosted by different groups and families. These ranged from dinners to a winter walkabout to look at everyone's Christmas lights, to a huge variety show with over 80 participants. After all of this, the community was more closely connected to each other and actually was invited to form a group with the local government to talk about these initiatives. They realized that the best way to get a safer neighborhood was by becoming a closer community. This focus on relationships is part of what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. The reality is the work of our community is only successful when we work together, maybe like a box of crayons. Part of the promise we make to each other through our covenant is that we work to support the whole community. And when we forget that, it is how we make things right with those we hurt that brings us back. It is our covenant that is the rainbow that can repair relationships. And being in a religious community doesn't mean we have to be perfect. It just means that we have to have love at the center of what we do. This is not easy work, and it is not how our society has taught us to be in the world. If we look to the news, we can see a nation that is driven by winning, getting ahead, exclusivity, prejudice. We can see how the work we are called to do is so pertinent to the world today. But when I look at all of us here gathered today, I have hope. What we learn here about engaging in life together does not just stay here, but changes us. And then we go and change others. And those people change others. It starts a ripple effect out into the rest of the world. I believe that we have the power to work together and make our world a better place, starting with what we do right here. As a board game enthusiast, my favorite part about cooperative board games is that when it is my turn in the game, I'm not going in alone. In those moments when I'm handed the die and I feel the panic of not knowing what to do, I have my whole team there to talk to and decide the best move to make. And that is what I want to leave you with today. The knowledge that as a part of this community, you too are not going through life alone. Whether it be your ministers, your board, or your fellow church members, they are all right beside you when you need it most. We're all on this journey in this game of life together.
Please rise and body your spirit and join us in singing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Life is full of many surprises, be it lucky rolls of the dice or a hand of cards that we wish that we weren't dealt. But while we don't know what is ahead for all of us, we do know that we have each other and that we aren't playing this game of life alone. Our worship has ended, but our service now begins. Go forth and be a blessing.
We will extinguish our flame, but will carry the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire commitment in our hearts until we meet again.
On a warm summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, met up with a gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns of staring out the window at the darkness till boredom overtook us and he began to speak. He said, son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces, knowing what their cards were by the way they held their eyes. And if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice. So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Oh, every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away and knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. When he'd finished speaking, he turned back towards the window. He crushed out his cigarette and faded off to sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even. In his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Thanks for joining in. It's a song about a card game, but I thought it fit just right.